Good afternoon, everybody. So, how you doing? Sean. Oh, I'm not sure. I'll check after class. Okay, Sean, you're making note. Override for ENVS 202L. Let's take a look. I've created the sign up for an in-person meeting in the lab this Friday. So if you want to come to lab and take the exam in person on Friday, please do sign up. Okay, there's limited seating, and I just want to make sure that we don't have more people who want to be there than we can accommodate. All right, so the exam is on Friday, and those of you who will be doing it remotely will have to log in into Zoom, and I'll proctor you via Zoom while you're taking the exam, just like we did last time. Now, I just gave an exam this morning in another class, and my gosh, there were a lot of problems, and most of the problems giving this exam on Sakai, most of the problems were due to the fact that students didn't submit in time. Okay, so let's not have any of those problems Friday. All right, you take the exam and you submit your work before time is up, so we don't have situations where people have no work in the system. All right. Also, a great idea to save your work as you're going along. Like every 5 minutes or so, save your work. And the reason is because this happened twice today, once with me and once with a student, that Sakai just decided to say service unavailable when we went to save or submit. So just, we just got to take precautions. Okay, so that's what's on tap on Friday. But you guys already know that. So today, I'll take any questions you have. If you have any questions about the exam or the material that's on the exam, if we'll see where that goes. I have some interesting maps to show you, and I was thinking about the way that businesses choose locations, and for markets that they want to serve, and so I have some example data to show you about that. Next week, all right. So next week, tomorrow. Well, let's back up a second. So tomorrow in lab, the whole time is your time to work on your projects, but I will be there in the lab for the entire day to bounce ideas off of, to ask questions about finding data or about analyzing data. So same as usual, Thursday, sign up for a time slot to come, and using the Sign Up Genius link on Sakai. And but there's no lab activity that we'll be doing tomorrow. It's free time, free work time. All right. There's nothing on exam 2 repeated from exam 1, correct? That's correct, Alexis. So the material builds on stuff that you've learned before, but when you look at those review slides, that slide deck summarizing all of the stuff that we've talked about and learned, and it's divided into 2 parts. Part 2 is the focus of the exam on Friday. All right. All right, so I'll take some questions, and while you're thinking about them, putting them in the chat, let me show you these maps that I found. So, I'm originally from Central Pennsylvania. I grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and one thing that in Lancaster County we have three main convenience stores that you encounter. There's Sheetz locations, just like here in Shepherdstown. There's a convenience store called Wawa, WAWA. I don't know if we have those in West Virginia. I don't think we do. I don't think there's any Wawas in West Virginia. And then there's another one called Turkey Hill. Turkey Hill Minute Market. And there's other ones too. There's one called like, I can't remember the names, like Kreiders or Rudders or something like that. And then you got like, there's, all gas stations that have their little convenience stores tacked on that are branded. But these are like, the chains. And so I was thinking about that because, you can get data on like where these store locations are, and then you can find patterns in that data. And so this is what I found. Let me show you this. All right. So this, that's something different. So here's a map. So this isn't the actual locations of the stores, but these are the counties where there are Wawas, Wawa, WAWA, and so this is Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up, and yeah, there's no Wawas in West Virginia. The closest Wawa would be in Frederick County, Maryland, but maybe we'll get a Wawa in the future. But, there's Wawas down here in Hampton Roads, Virginia. This is where I went to grad school. And then apparently in Florida. Okay? So it's interesting that this company has picked these areas to establish locations. And why is there nothing in between? It's an interesting... They started in Pennsylvania. Why did they decide to go and establish in Florida? What happened is, could be an interesting story. These are Sheetz locations, and yes, we got them here in West Virginia. Look at this interesting place. Look at these Sheetz. Why are there like all these Sheetz locations right along this road here? I'm assuming that's a road, but nothing in the interior of West Virginia. And you got some down here in North Carolina, through the central Virginia. But notice, so one thing to notice here is, if you just focus on Pennsylvania, there's no Sheetz locations in this area of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Bucks County, and that's like Wawa territory. See that? That's like the core of Wawa territory. So Sheetz stays out of Wawa territory, but there's lots of them in Lancaster County. And then here are Turkey Hill locations, and this is just Pennsylvania, but I think there's some locations outside of Pennsylvania. So, here's Lancaster County, has all of these locations. And I was thinking, maybe there's a project idea in here somewhere, or maybe there's a project that involves, studying the footprints of the different chain store locations. You have data like this. You could calculate things like kernel densities to see where the stores are most densely located. I got to imagine that the decision to decide where to establish a new store when you're building convenience stores is determined by factors like, is there a market? Is there a location? What about deliveries to those locations? Is it conveniently located on an existing delivery route where your trucks are going? It's like, look at this. Way over here. Whoops. Why is there a Turkey Hill way out here in this county all by itself? So when they're doing deliveries, a truck's got to drive all the way out there to make a delivery, and there's no other locations nearby. But maybe it makes business sense. And then I got to thinking, you could do this with like other chain stores. Like, one thing I have observed is that oftentimes you'll find a Home Depot and a Lowe's like right next to each other. Okay, and that's there's a geospatial analysis problem in there. It's not the case here in West Virginia. You know, there's a Home Depot down in Ranson and there's a Lowe's in Martinsburg, but I've seen several places where it's like they're in the same parking lot. You know, it's like they share a parking lot. You have a Home Depot and a Lowe's right next to each other. And I was thinking, well, I wonder if you could imagine comparing the nearest distance within the group. You know, say you had all the locations of the Lowe's stores in the country. You could compare the nearest distance within the group, you know, the nearest or average, or, you know, you calculate statistics on the distances between Lowe's stores. And then you could calculate statistics between the groups, between Lowe's and Home Depot groups. And you could see if it is in fact true that they are like not, you know, they're trying to space out their stores relative to their other stores, but also trying to cluster them close to the competition. And I mean, you could do that, you know, Target and Walmart and things like that. So, you know, there could be potential analysis that you could do. Basically, if you find yourself some data, you'll be able to think of something that you can do with that data. What else? Oh, and then I got thinking, well, what is, you know, the largest employer in different states? So, you know, I feel like we're heading into a future where, well, let's talk about the current situation in the past. So I found this map right here, which I thought was really interesting. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the largest employer in each state. Okay, the largest employer in each state, and like half the states, the largest employer is Walmart. Walmart employs more people than any other company or government agency. And then after that, it's like education and healthcare. You know, up here in Oregon, Providence Health and Services Healthcare, St. Luke's Health System, Sanford Health, and then you got like university systems, University of Wisconsin. Here's a University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, so it's both medical and education. University of California. So I thought that was interesting. And then you got this like Walmart country. It's like half the United States is like the United States of Walmart. And so, you know, this map was made what's UPMC? Cam, hold on, figure it out. University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. I gotcha. Okay. So, oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Okay. So here's something that could be an interesting project. You know, I look at the future and you know, who knows if this trend will continue? But in the last year, and I can only say this anecdotally, but I've spoken with people who are in like you know, building industries, and they say that this is their experience, that there's a huge number of people leaving Northern Virginia and moving out into, like, you know, moving west into like Hampshire and Hardee County, West Virginia, for example. And you know, so builders are telling me this, that they're getting a lot of these people who are moving out of. So I you know, and I've heard anecdotes that this flight from cities is happening elsewhere, and it's there's different factors, but the pandemic is a factor. The move to remote work is a factor. People are more free to move around. But you have the migrations of people, and I'm sure there's data out there about the migrations of people, and there's questions you could ask about patterns in that data. Like what are the fastest growing states? What are the slowest growing states? West Virginia, at least to my knowledge, in the recent past, has had a net population decline. What's driving that? Is it demographics, or is it people leaving for opportunities elsewhere? So things like that are problems that you can study with the GIS and visualize with the GIS. So here's another phenomenon. So this Walmart Nation idea. So I think of the way that our consumer habits are changing, and the biggest change in the last, it really started in the late 90s, but has really accelerated in the last decade or so, and the pandemic has made it even more dramatic. Is the Amazon business model, which companies like Walmart are trying to duplicate. Walmart's business model was, we're going to have a store in every state, brick and mortar locations. Amazon's business model was, we will have distribution centers, and then it's delivery based. You're delivering products to people's homes. And so the brick and mortar model of retail is really on the ropes. A lot of the traditional retail chains, your J.C. Penney's, your Sears stores. Sears doesn't exist anymore. Kmart, Kmart got squashed. And you have situations where there's malls that are completely vacant, or mostly vacant. The Martinsburg Mall has been torn down. Even the anchor stores, I think there's one of those buildings is still there, and the other ones were ripped down or converted into strip mall type stores. That way of doing business just has evaporated. But and I think that so some of these locations will be converted to Amazon distribution centers. But I just and of course there'll be places where malls can be sustained, at least in the foreseeable future, because there's enough of a customer base to sustain that. But there could be lots of project ideas in that as well. The changing business landscape. I think about with this business model of home delivery, it's impacted adjacent industries that I guess they're directly connected. Delivery, UPS, FedEx, and it's such a big deal now that even Amazon has its own delivery fleet now. And I see the Amazon van. It's not really a truck. It's like a Ford Transit van driving around making deliveries in my neighborhood. And it's funny that on the same day I got Amazon delivery in two parts. It was a two-part delivery, so I got two separate delivery trucks come. One was in an Amazon van, and the other was a UPS truck. So, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe they're coming from different locations or something like that. So, in addition, I'm throwing these ideas out here. So these are these are societal questions about human society, how we organize ourselves, our economic activities. So, there's tons of questions about this, in addition to, environmental questions and resource management questions and things like that. All right. So I don't see any questions in the comments. Anybody have any questions whatsoever? Does anybody want to talk about a project idea? Are you stressed about the exam on Friday? You shouldn't be. You're going to do great. You'll study. You'll study my slides. You'll do great. All right, Kyle, are we able to show multiple maps for our final project? I feel like I have a lot of different variables in my data I'd like to show in different maps. Yeah, you can. That sounds like it will certainly exceed the expectations of what I'd like you to do. Now, you could also, like, let's say that you're doing an analysis that involves, there's maybe you're repeating an analysis on different data sets, or you're doing a similar analysis on the same data, but you're tweaking it, like maybe you're changing a buffer size or something like that. One thing that works really well in that case is you can choose a representative case. So you could like show a map for one of your situations, and then I want you to write this one-page summary. You could, in that summary, you could say, well, my result was different if I used a 50-mile buffer instead of a 30-mile buffer, and this is what I got. You could summarize results from other analyses. But I guess that's a general thing. But you can definitely share more than one map if you want. But it sounds like that would exceed what I'm asking you guys to do. So it's okay to do more than I'm asking you to do. Michelle, I saw an interesting data set I wanted to do. I want to graph hiker deaths along the Appalachian Trail and relate it to terrain and wild animal sightings if possible. So do you have both of these? Michelle, do you have the hiker deaths data, and do you have some other data set, like the something about terrain or animal sightings? Or do you just have the hiker death location? How many people die while hiking the Appalachian Trail? Is it a lot? Do people just disappear and are never seen again? So Michelle, do you have the latitude and longitude, the coordinates of where these deaths occurred? Is that what you have? It's funny, you don't usually think of deaths as being spatial, but they are. Oftentimes they are. Trail bandits area, a real thing. What does that mean, James? There's areas where there's trail bandits? Cam is saying, can you use symbology on buffer zones? Yes, you can, and you can. So the buffer zones, like if you're buffering around points, those buffers will inherit the attributes of those points if you want them to. Or if you're buffering around polygons, they'll inherit the attributes of those polygons. Lines too. Okay, if you're buffering around features, the buffer features you create can, if you set it, the attributes of the features you buffered, and then you can do any symbology that you want on those attributes. So if, you could use you could assign classes and use different colors. So yes, you can use. You could sort of you could color code your buffer zones based on some data that's associated with them. Trail bandits. That's creepy. So the buffers you want to create are on the points, but some of the points are close together. Would that be an issue? So what you would do is when you create a buffer, one of the options is whether you want to dissolve buffers or keep them separate. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that every point creates a buffer that is its own feature. So that even if they're overlapping, they're still separate in your data set. They're not merged together in any way. So yeah, it shouldn't be a problem if they're close together. You can have overlapping buffers that are still separate. And if you have points and you buffer on them, a distance 10 miles, essentially what you'll get is the points become circles, and those circles have centers where the points were, and they can overlap if you don't dissolve them. Okay, yeah, I can help you out with that tomorrow. I remember, I went to grad school at William & Mary, and there's this really cool road that connects Jamestown, Virginia, with Yorktown, Virginia. It's called the Colonial Parkway. It's an awesome road. It goes right along the James River, and then it comes out along the York River. It's just beautiful. Beaches, fishing. It's great. I miss it. I miss seeing the open water. The Potomac isn't quite the same. It's too small. There was this, I never knew if it was true, but there was this story of the Colonial Parkway killer that roamed the Colonial Parkway during like the 60s or something like that, and there were murders on the Colonial Parkway. I think that was, I don't know if I've never really looked into it. I don't know if they ever caught that person. What are people, the hiker death data I saw still needs to find the other two data sets. Okay. Does the hiker death data include like a cause of death? That's they disappear or fall off or are attacked by animals. Are there or people? I would imagine people are more likely to attack hikers than animals, although there are a lot of bears. But I don't think many people are dying from bear attacks on the Appalachian Trail. These are, eastern U.S. black bears. They're cute and cuddly. Not like those western United States grizzly bears. Just kidding. I wouldn't want to get too close to any kind of bear. What else? Anybody else have any questions? Or ideas? I can't believe that next week is our last week of in-person instruction. So, our full week. The following week we have 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, Thanksgiving week, and then the week after Thanksgiving, there's a week of time that you can use. So you really have like 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks to finish these projects. A lot of time, but next week is pretty much the only time we're going to be able to be in person. So here's something to consider. Michelle, you asked, I think it was you, Michelle, you asked me about whether you're allowed to use the lab after Thanksgiving break. And I still don't have a definitive answer on that, because you said that you're not leaving campus. But I think the university's preference here is to have a one-size-fits-all rule that, after Thanksgiving, classrooms are shut down. And the lab even if you're not leaving campus. So that means if you aren't finished with your project by the end of next week, you need to have some ability to do this work remotely. And you guys will all have ArcGIS Online and the ability to install, if you haven't already, ArcGIS Pro on a Windows computer that you have access to. So hopefully that covers everybody, that everyone will have access to a Windows computer if they still need to finish some work. So we have a departmental license for ArcGIS Pro, and I was thinking about, how does your license continue, your access to this license continue after the course? And I need to verify with Dr. Murphy, but my preference here would be to allow all of you to maintain your access to ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Online through the next semester and through the summer until the fall semester, when we have a limited number of seats or students that we can assign to the license, so we would need them for the GIS class next fall. But to allow you to keep your access to the software over the course of the spring semester and summer, and if you want to then use that to continue learning or to work on projects, you can. And Esri has a lot of free training material, so you can even do some formal, additional formal training if you want. All right. So last chance for any questions. I don't see any new stuff up there. Who was that? It was Daniel Speck did a project last year on human-bear interactions in West Virginia, and was studying how the severity of these interactions were changing. And there was a spatial component to that because the data was classified by county. So you remember, okay, just remember this. If you're looking for data, even if that data doesn't exist natively as a GIS data set, right? It's not like polygons or lines or points. You might be able to use that data using things like join, table joins, to add that data to a feature layer on your map, a feature class or feature layer on your map, so that you can do some analysis with your GIS. So what do you need in order to be able to do that? Just some sort of marker that indicates something about location. It doesn't have to be latitude and longitude. It can just be county and state, or it could just be state. That's less resolution. So just keep that in mind. If you find data and it's just like data that's broken out by county in West Virginia, and it's just a data table, don't forget, you can just use that data in a join to add that data to polygons that represent the counties. All right, gang. Well, then that's it for today, and we'll end a little bit early. Tomorrow, remember, sign up if you want to come in and spend some Q time in the lab working on your projects, and I'll be there from 9 until... I'll be around until 3 p.m. All right, might be in and out at different times of the day, but I'll be around. All right, I will see you tomorrow.